Welcome back to another ABH Podcast, Making a Difference in Mental Health. I am your host, Danielle Young, and I have my co-host here with me. Say hi, co-host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy, back here. Happy to be with Danielle at our table so we can have yet another great conversation. This is our third episode in the series regarding men and mental health. And today I have 4 amazing guests that are going to come on and talk to us about fatherhood.
Absolutely. We are in celebration, as Wendy has already said, of our Men's Mental Health Month. And I would just like to take the time for everyone to just introduce themselves. Special guests, introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Raymond McLaughlin. I work at the Montgomery County location. I'm a therapist and productivity coach.
Hi, my name is Mark McCauley. I work at the Gaithersburg, Montgomery County office as well, and I'm a therapist.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daryl Parker. I work at the Greenbelt location of ABH, and I'm a therapist as well.
Hey, guys. My name is Jonathan Avila. I'm a therapeutic mentor at the Greenbelt location.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here today. We are honored to have you with us, and we are so excited to get this discussion started. And we wanted to start off with a very important question. The question is, and this is popcorn style, you guys can jump in at any time. When you first found out you were going to be a father, what was your initial reaction?
I guess I'll go first. So I was scared. I was very scared, actually. It took us a while to get, it took my wife a while to get pregnant. You know, my wife's a neonatal nurse practitioner, and she works at Children's Hospital, so she's dealt with a lot of stuff when it comes to things that could go wrong with a pregnancy. So I just got real scared, and I was scared right up until my daughter was born, my first daughter. Just the whole pregnancy, I was worried that it wasn't going to happen. So yeah, fear, fear for me was the prominent thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I hit every emotion in the book within like a 48-hour time stamp, and I mean, it was more of a surprise, but also excitement as well. I guess it was because when I grew up, I have 3 younger siblings that are, a lot younger than me. So there's like 15 to 20 year age gap. So I kind of grew up kind of helping them out and taking that role. So I kind of knew what I was getting into in a way, except the sleepless nights and things like that. But yeah, I mean, when I found out, it was only a few months after my wedding. So it all came up pretty quick. So it was, overwhelming at times, but over time I got more excited, but just kind of getting into that planning mode.
Wow, Mark. A husband and a father all at once. I'm sure
Yeah.
That was pretty overwhelming. Yes.
Right.
And those sleepless nights too.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
If I could piggyback off of that, for me, it was, once again, like what Raymond was saying, the whole gamut, being scared. Are you sure? Who, me? Really? Are we really going to do this? It's definitely a sense of excitement, but also feeding a little bit off of Mark. It's like being thrown into the fire to a point. I mean, I was thankful because I had my father in my life for 26 years. And all of a sudden, instead of now modeling what I've known in my life to be a father, now I have to do this. And it's like you may think you're ready, but just the challenges that just before you. So it was definitely scary. It was definitely exciting, but it was surreal all at the same time. And it just kind of wishing to do and hoping that you make the right decisions, not only for, your family, but, for yourself as well. So it was exciting, scary, but it's a great experience so far, at least, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan, what about you? Do you identify with any of the guys?
Going off of Mr. Parker was saying, I am a little scared. My fiance, she's currently 8 months, so I'm soon to be a father. But of course, I was.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But a lot of emotions. At first I did feel a little scared just because growing up I didn't have a father figure. It was just me and my mother. So just you're wondering, am I gonna be a good influence? I never had a dad to like guide me and stuff like that. But, you know, I was thankful to have a strong, independent mother. So, you know, a little bit of what she taught me, I'm going to take forward and try to apply it to my daughter. But I was really, really excited. You know, being a young dad, of course, you know, there's going to be a lot of things that, you know, I'm not going to know what to do. But, you know, that's just the experience, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Wow. So on that note, you know, the theme I've heard is being scared, which is a absolute normal emotional response to fatherhood. So as a man and a father for you guys, what are your views on vulnerability? How important is that in your family?
You know, like Daryl had mentioned about modeling. You know, I'm a true believer in modeling the right behaviors, and I have two daughters right now, a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I want nothing more in this world than for them to trust me, for them to be able to come to me when they need something, and you know, for them to know that I'm here for them no matter what. So I believe that if I model vulnerability in the right way, then they will see that, they will be comfortable with that, and you know, they will feel more comfortable being vulnerable. So that's my hope. You know, I also just think vulnerability is one of those things that you grow into. I think people start out in life trying to be strong, trying to be independent, and they grow into that. But eventually people realize that we all need help. I think the ultimate expression of vulnerability is asking for help. So it's something I've learned over time. And it's definitely something that I want to instill in my daughters, because I want them to know that I'm there for them no matter what.
Absolutely. I mean, it's strength and vulnerability. Daryl, what are your thoughts about it?
I'm feeding off of Raymond. I mean, because my daughters, I mean, they're grown. I have a 29-year-old and a 26-year-old. So, Raymond, you have a lot to go, but it's so much. It's a lot to it. But I definitely agree with Raymond part as far as the modeling part and the vulnerability. I think that the stigma of being vulnerable is not being a position of strength. I think that is a label that needs to be removed. I think it takes more strength to show and for your children to see and model that it's okay to have areas of your life where that, hey, you know what? Some things I might not have the answer for. Some things I am nervous and have anxious for. I don't have all the answers. I just think that a lot of, you know, a lot of it's trial and error. I can't say it enough. So much is going to be trial and error. And there's going to be many things I do even to this day. I look back and say, I think I kind of wish I'd have handled that a little bit better when she's 13 years old or 17 years old or whatever the case may be. But the main thing to be is the model, like you're saying, that at the end of the day, we don't have all the answers. We're not perfect. And that even though you could come to me, you know, let's work on this together. Everything should be collaborative because it's supposed to be a teaching type experience being a parent. And that's what I think a lot of parents miss. It should be less preaching, more teaching. And I've been telling a lot of some of my clients that because that's very important. Because as they get older and you see your final product, and like I said, my children will be a little older, and I'm also a grandfather now. I know, right?
Oh, wow, Grandpa.
Yeah, you're right. You starting to see, you know, your work. Well, Daddy, I'm not going for this, and Daddy, you know that. I'm like, oh wow, where did you get that from? So, like I said, it's a great experience. But yeah, being vulnerable, showing that at the end of the day, I'm not perfect, that I do have my weak moments, and how to model that during those moments are very, very important. Very important part of the process. Yes.
I see, as Daryl, as you're talking, I see a lot of the guys just kind of shaking their head. They're in agreement. Mark, Jonathan, what are your thoughts about it? Especially you, Jonathan, you're a soon-to-be dad. I hope you're taking some notes down here from dads and a grandpa. But, he's got his notepad, you all. He's got his notepad for the audience. But Jonathan, what are your thoughts? And then Mark, step in.
No, I do agree with Raymond and Mr. Parker. You know, I do agree that, you know, being strong isn't always the answer. And that's something that I had trouble with, you know, as far as understanding and comprehending it. You know, once I get into the mental health field, I learned a lot. You know, it does matter how you feel. It does matter how you express those emotions, right? And I didn't learn that growing up. And it was kind of rough for me. So, of course, the first thing I'm going to do is be wonderful to my daughter and, you know, show her that things aren't always going to be the way that you want in life. You know, there's going to be things like Mr. Parker says that you're not going to know the answer to. And that's what just life is, you know, just making sure she knows that I'm there every step of the way, and just understanding that, you know, she can come to me with anything. So just being that parent that, you know, she can talk to, not just me, my fiance too, you know. Of course, there's always gonna have to be a good and a bad parent, you know. I've been seeing that a lot, but I just want her to understand that, you know, no matter what, she can go to either one of us, and we're both gonna try to guide her in our best way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone said. I mean, they hit the nail on the head. It's kind of hard to, you know, follow after all that, because I feel like all the points have been said. But I mean, just to feed off of that, like, you know, going into being a parent, you have an expectation of kind of what you want to do and how you want to kind of go about it. But, you know, it all gets thrown in the loop once, you know, it actually happens. Like, you know, you learn each and every day, you know, different things. And I mean, you know, growing up, people think like vulnerability is, like people were saying, like, is looked upon as a weakness at times, but, you know, it's really a strength, where it's like, you know, you have to fight to do that. You have to learn that, and you got to understand, you know, when that is, you know, best used. And I feel like, you know, having a daughter, you know, it changes you. Like, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, raising a son opposed to a daughter, I guess you would kind of go about it differently sometimes. But, you know, a lot of people told me, like, you know, that I had friends, they have daughters, and they're like, you know, you're gonna turn into a softie. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna they're gonna have you wrapped around your finger. And it's like, you know, trying to balance that, and be able to kind of do what you need to do in every aspect. And it's, you know, it's still trying to find that balance. But I feel like, you know, being vulnerable is one of the things that I really improved upon, you know, over the year and a half, almost 2 years of her being born.
Good. It sounds like daughters are the it thing to break through these stereotypes that men are raised with, to be, you know, strong and not be vulnerable and not cry and not have these conversations. But you guys have shown that, no, not exactly. It's the opposite. So nice. Very nice to hear that.
Real quick, if I can also interject, yeah, you will become a softie. Let me tell you, that's going to happen. Yes, and it's even more. And it's you'll really get to see this, and this is for the Raymond part of it. When that first young man come knock on your door and they want to see your daughter, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Guys, what do you think?
And you know, it's funny because I'm looking at Mark right now. You can tell Mark, wait a minute, I'm not ready for this shit.
Daryl, you don't know me. I'm not even going to get into that side of things. Let's stop right there.
I'm just telling you, right?
Yes. I grew up in a place. I have 5 sisters. I grew up with a single mother. I you know, no dad. My mom was left to raise 7 kids on her own, and I was the oldest boy, and so I took on that role. I was the man of the house, so I had to do what the man of the house does where I come from. So I'm just going to leave it at that. How about that?
But you know, the crazy thing about it is, because and I have heard this before, which is true, you are actually, you know, in a way, your child, especially your daughter's first real boyfriend, as they put it, in a way where that you're the protector, you're the person she looks up to, you're the strength.
I'm hanging up the phone.
So when it's time, when her attention goes somewhere else, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, wait a minute. You're going to miss it because you're going to actually see something else come along. So it's really a role, it's really a change for us that, you know, you actually got to give a little bit more leeway and a little bit more leash. And I found that kind of difficult, believe me, in the beginning. It was very difficult. So for those who have not came into the point of teenage stage and all of that, just say you didn't hear from me first. All right.
Well, I'll just say, as a lady in the room, I will say that maybe I definitely didn't look at my dad in that particular way, but I will say that my parents, they've been married 40 something years, and my dad was a first example of a man, of a gentleman, of a provider, of how a guy should treat a girl. And so the standard that I would set as a young teenager and then into my 20s, and I'm going to be entering into my 40s soon, I have a specific standard because of who my father is, even now to this day, to my mom and to all of my siblings who we're all adults. And even to this day, he's cutting flowers for her out of the yard and having them on the center table. So in a sense, you as a father are the first example of how, or if there is an absence sometimes, how or what it's not as a father or as a man. So I can identify with that as the lady in the room. Mark, did you have any thoughts about some of the roundtable? And guys, you can come off the mic if you're agreeing with your brothers here.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I understand like your point of view where it's like, when a daughter or, vice versa, a son, like, you kind of grow up with seeing the opposite sex and how they treat relationships and treat you, and you kind of have that mold in your mind as to what you would look forward to like in the future. So it's kind of that, you want to instill that in your child, like show that one, you're strong, you're vulnerable, you're a provider, all the things that you were discussing, that, showing her that this is what, you should kind of like you should look towards in the future, showing that, the good example so that they are on that right path, growing up and kind of leading to where they need to go.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I just want to interject. I've been married 26 years, and you end up picking people like your father, because my husband is so many qualities like my dad. It sometimes is very scary for me, but that's kind of how it turns out at times too.
All right. And so, guys, we want to thank you so far for just giving us so many gems and, even some of the laughs that you provided here. I'm sure that some of our listeners, especially our male listeners, they'll be able to identify at whatever stage they are in fatherhood or reflecting back on their fathers. We have our third question here. How has fatherhood changed you? I think we kind of talked about that. And do you approach parenting differently because you're a therapist? That's a good question.
I'm gonna jump in here again, if that's okay, guys.
Sure.
In terms of how fatherhood has changed me, fatherhood was like this immediate thing where I held this mirror up in front of myself, and I saw myself for who I was. I saw my faults. I saw the things that I had to work on. I saw the things that I had to do to be a better person, and it was just this thing where I was like, I have to be better. And it wasn't a negative thing that I was seeing these faults. It wasn't a negative thing that I was recognizing some of these negative behaviors. It was a positive thing, because I was challenging myself. Being a father, becoming a father, was this challenge to be better, because I didn't want to be what I didn't have as a father. I wanted to be better than this thing that I didn't have. I had this idea of what a good father was, but I didn't know how to be it. So where I started was with me. What existed? What are my faults? What are my strengths? What do I have to do better? And I still do that every day. It's not something I stop. It's something that I do every single day. On a daily basis, I take inventory of who I am, and I try to be a better person. And in terms of, do I approach parenting differently because I'm a therapist? I try to sometimes, but it never works out. I think that's why we shouldn't be therapists to our kids or families or family members, because it never works out the way you think it should.
I see Gerald giving a thumbs up. He agrees.
Yeah, and then in terms of how does fatherhood? The other part was, how does fatherhood affect my work? To me, it gives me an opportunity to relate to people on a different level. On a level that involves experience, and on a level that I couldn't relate to when I wasn't a father. So it's another opportunity to grow as a therapist. I really appreciate that.
Jonathan, you are a therapeutic mentor. So how does that play into your work here at ABH with your kids?
Me just being a little younger than everybody, I'm already relating a lot to my kids. Just because a little bit about, what they've been going through, I can relate to it myself. As far as how my job has affected me, I treat the kids as like if I wanted to be treated, with respect and showing them that I'm here, that they have to talk to. So, going into fatherhood, I'm going to be the same way with my daughter. A little bit piggyback off of what Mr. Raymond was saying. I didn't grow up without a father either. So I know what not to do. That's in my head. So, of course, like what he was saying, look into the mirror, I actually did it myself, and I actually got a couple times emotional, because I actually don't want to become a person that my daughter doesn't like or despise or anything like that, It took me a long time to forgive my father, and I don't want her to go through the same situation as I went through. So, for me, it's more of the things that I know not to do. And, all the advice that all the fathers right now are giving to me, I really do take into consideration, and it is really helpful for me. So, just moving forward, it's just the good qualities that you guys tell me right now, being vulnerable, there's a lot of negative stigma that goes into mental health that a lot of people don't see into. So, just understanding how she feels. And that's how being a therapeutic mentor has changed me a lot into becoming a father.
A lot of trial and error with being a parent. I mean, you want to be perfect, but there's no such thing. I think that's the therapeutic part where that I do try to convey to a lot of my clients, especially the parents, there's no such thing as perfection. It is going to be trial and error, a lot of it. I mean, I say once again, I look back and when my time with my children was actually at home. And like I said, there's some things I wish I had back. But the thing about it is I know that it always had the best of intentions, that at that time, I definitely felt like I did the best I could with that situation. I would tell a lot of fathers, don't be too hard on yourself if you find yourself making some decisions later on, like, well, man, maybe I could have. But the great thing about it, once again, is a teachable moment that you can actually sit down and talk with your child. And this is powerful. I was wrong about that. And that's big. I remember I'm going to go with a quick story. When my child was 16 years old and I seen she was starting to make some mistakes. And I like, well, sweetheart, if I tell you that wall is hard and I ran into it before as a child, at your age, why would you do that? And she looked at me with this look on her face. She said, I know that, Daddy, but I have to go through it. And it stopped the whole conversation. It really did. And I said, she's absolutely right, because it's necessary stages they're going to go through, that even though we claim as fathers, well, I never done that. Yes, you did. You done some things crazy too during those stages. But to actually show them that at the end of the day, to give them room to make their mistakes, but also have it where they have the information is big. So I think when I say fatherhood and therapy, I'm not the therapist, put it this way. During my fatherhood time, as far as during that time, therapy wasn't too much in that process. It really was one of those things where that, you're dealing with the situation as it occurring. You're dealing with individuals, not someone else's family, you may say, but definitely with your own. And you just try to make the best decisions you can. But it's definitely trial and error. As long as you got the best intentions, you make a mistake, okay, well, it is what it is. Just have good intentions behind it.
And I mean, I think we went over like how it has changed us, but I think I'm looking at a different scope in a way, whereas, like how fatherhood has helped me as a therapist rather than the other way around. I guess, a lot of times when I started out as a therapist back in 2016 with this company, I was still, I was 27 years old. So I was always looked at like, everyone thought I was a lot younger than I actually am. So they always looked at me as kind of like a kid. So, sometimes when working with some parents and things like that, they would kind of, look at you and say like, if they didn't agree with you all the time or say certain things, they'd be like, well, you're not a father yet, so you don't understand where we're coming from. So sometimes it kind of, gets you thinking. And now that, that you are a father, you see some of those difficulties and you see those things that they go through, and it kind of helps you along the way with being able to identify that and kind of work through those issues based on the experiences you've had as well. So I think that, with fatherhood, like being a father, I think, it helps in many different ways when it comes to, actual therapy practice. But on the flip side, I've heard so many times with, just my wife in general, where she's just like, I know you're a therapist, but please do not try and, be that towards me or, towards our daughter. I mean, yeah, incorporate skills, but don't be that person that kind of, will set that standard and kind of use that at every turn. So, trying to balance that and being able to use those skills, but more in a, fatherly manner at times rather than kind of going at it a different way. So I think that's kind of how I look at it and, what I've learned from it and the path I'm on right now.
Wow, guys, you're giving so much for food for thought, even for maybe even our women listeners or our mothers out there who are listening, some of the fathers out there who are listening, even myself. Wendy, what about you? What are your thoughts before we move on to our last question?
I love the conversation about vulnerability and just, debunking myths. Danielle, that's who I am. I love to debunk a myth.
Right.
And I think that's very helpful to our audience listeners that, being a father and a man and the good qualities that come along with it should be talked about and celebrated much more.
Absolutely. Now, guys, we are on our last question, and you certainly feel free to come off the mic. You can even give each other some props. But our last question before we wrap up is, what advice would you give to other men entering into fatherhood? Any additional advice than the great advice you've given today?
Like one word phrase?
One word phrase.
When have I ever used a one-word phrase, Wendy? Let's be honest here.
We want you to stress, Raymond.
So this is a two-part answer that I have, and I was trying to figure out which one to put first. But I'm going to start with, your wife and your partner. She is going to do more than you will ever know, than you can even comprehend. She's going to do more for your child and your family than you can even imagine.
Amen.
So my advice would be to support her in whatever way you can, to figure out what she needs and help her to get it. Because if you do that, your family will be more successful. Number two, understand what your needs are. Understand the things that make you happy. If you're in a good place, you're going to be more effective. You're going to be more available. You're going to be less critical of your kids, of your wife. And you're going to put yourself in the best place possible to bring the best attitude possible into whatever thing you may deal with. So know what your needs are and know what your wife's needs are or your partner's needs are, and try to make sure those needs are met, and other things will fall in line.
Excellent. Love it.
Just to piggyback off of that, I know you said like one word answers. I have a couple words. I won't expand as much, but for being a father, the biggest thing is patience and understanding. You have to be patient. You have to be able to, ride that wave and just understand, where things are at times and be patient with it. And like Raymond said, your wife or your partner, like they go through a lot that you don't understand. And, I am more than appreciative of my wife for everything that she does. And it doesn't always show up because it's not like, it's something that you see where it's like you work, you get a paycheck, you see that paycheck. You don't always see that if you're not looking for it. But what they do is so amazing. Like, being a parent, being a mother, like that's one of the hardest and most fulfilling jobs you can ever have. So, seeing that on a daily basis and just kind of lending support and doing all you possibly can, to help out is the biggest thing. It's, even though it might be hard, taking that 2 a.m. shift, 3 a.m. shift at times to just give them a break sometimes to help out, even though you have to wake up early in the morning. And I mean, I know Raymond knows, but I'm not a big morning person, so it's hard. But you got to sacrifice. You got to make a lot of sacrifices to your life, and like you were asking as well, show your support. I mean, I've been with ABH for 6 years, and Raymond's the one that's brought me on, and I've always looked up to him, not only as being like a father figure, like seeing what he's done like at that extent, but just, being that, model employee boss that, you always hope to work for. So, and I've always gone to him at times in need, not only with work, but, with questions involving fatherhood when I was in that process. So I have, all the thanks in the world to him for everything he's done for me.
Thank you for that, Mark.
For the first time in my life, I'm speechless.
I'll take that.
For me, I would say a couple things. One, to roll off Mark a little bit, as far as motherhood, for all the mothers who are doing it out there by themselves, I can't say this enough. So much kudos. It's a lot. Like Raymond was saying, it's just so much for both Mark and Raymond. It's so much that my wife had contributed to the raising of our children. It's remarkable. But to have to actually do it by yourself, because I know it's a balance, but I mean, to do it by yourself it's a lot of work, to say the least. And for those who are out there doing it, once again, all the kudos in the world, because it is truly the best job. It's a wonderful job, but it's definitely one that's 24/7. It's not, 40 hours a week. It's 24/7. And because of that, once again, the strengths of our mothers out there who's holding it down, as they say, hey, once again, all the credit in the world on my end. For the fathers out there, if you are listening to this and you have a tinge of, well, maybe I should step up and do the right thing, you won't be sorry for doing it. It is truly, it's not easy, but it's very rewarding, especially at the end of the day. For me, to have had the blessing of having my father in my life for the years I have, I am grateful that he was there. I didn't really realize that till after he passed, to be honest. But after he passed, I realized how much of him was part of me being the man I am today. So also, if I had to say one word, you cannot be narcissistic as a parent, because you do not know everything. Do not be arrogant and say, and because if your kid's coming to you after a while, the one thing you want your children to do is be able to communicate with you, and no one, grown or small, like that, be around and know it all. So be open and be vulnerable, as we were speaking about earlier, to take advice from all places, because believe it or not, a lot of things I've learned actually, and I'm not too small to say this, too big to say this, I learned from my children. Honestly, some of the things I actually learned from my children. So it's all a learning experience. And the main thing is to also, one more thing, find yourself a positive father type role model, person who's been there and done that, but also positive, somebody where you can actually lean on and talk to. Once again, don't go into it all by yourself. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of men such as ourselves who have children already, who are going to tell you there are going to be some bumps in the road. You don't have to do it exactly the way we've done it. But at the end of the day, if out of that you can find something you can use, then please do, because it needs support. Mothers need support, but so do fathers. So we got to get past the stigma that it's weak to ask for help. No, it's not. It's strength when you ask for help. That's showing you have strength, in my opinion. So narcissistic, leave it alone. Leave the narcissism alone.
If I had an applause button, I'd press it now. And Jonathan, what are your thoughts?
Well, one advice that one of my cousins gave me, which I think was really good, was, like I said, I just want to become a good father. And he actually told me, he was like, sometimes we can't always plan, how to be the best father. We just got to enjoy the time, the moment that we're living. So, what I'm going to go moving forward is just, of course, I want to be the best father I can be, but also enjoy the little times, observing her walk, talk, and things like that. So, just not just focusing on being a good father, but also, like Mr. Parker, Mr. Mark, and Mr. Raymond said, making sure your partner's good, making sure she's fine, because, what she's going through. I can say right now, this is my first time, my fiance, she yells at me, she screams at me. I'm like, what? I come home after a busy day at work and she just yells at me, like, she says, there's one dish on the table. I'm said, one? Okay, I'm sorry,
But come off the mic if you can agree.
Yeah, we're all muted here, but we're laughing in the background.
That's a lot of pregnancy talks.
Memories.
Yeah.
But just being there for her, I know that's for her emotionally. So just being there, doing things to make her happy, get her little Starbucks, So just taking care of her partner is really what I got from you guys, and I will do that. So that's my best advice. And of course, I'm taking all the advice you guys gave me, because that's very useful.
Excellent.
2 words: ice cream and foot massages.
That's
You know,
so great. That's wonderful.
I think it's interesting because, you know, we talk about fatherhood and, you know, it's about being a parent. You know, being a parent is different than being a father, because a parent is this joined thing, is this partnership. You're a parent, not that you are the dad or you are the mom. You're a parent. That means that you're a team. There's a partnership there. You're both going through it together. And, you know, and again, I go back to there's two of you in this, and, you know, just it's just amazing to me how much moms do. Really, just amazing. And I'm not downplaying dads and what we do, but dude, moms do so freaking much. They just do.
They touch the stuff we won't. Yeah. They do some things. I mean, when that's going up, you know, let's think about them diapers. It's amazing. I don't know if it's instinctual. I don't know what it is, but it's
I don't mind that stuff.
Women just go and do it, and I'm like, I'm not touching. Oh my God, no. Please don't ask me to do it. I'll do it.
Everything else they're balancing in their minds. That, you know, managing doctor's appointments, freaking, you know, paying bills at this time and making sure this is done and that is done. And I'm just thinking about what I gotta eat for dinner, what we're gonna eat, or working out, making sure I get the workout. You know, it just, again, it's like, I can't say enough about what you guys do, what mothers do. I know.
Well,
you know,
I'm going to take that kudo. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. Danielle?
I'm a big sister, an auntie, and a godmommy, and I still do some of the things, not all the things. So I still tip my hat off to mothers, and I tip my hat off to you fathers too.
Absolutely.
have got to say that I have enjoyed thoroughly this conversation. I want to just champion you all on today, and thank you so much for being here. I just want to do a quick recap before we close out. Just for our audience, we talked about vulnerability and strength. We talked about different approaches to even parenting and teachable moments and lessons. We're so happy for these gentlemen to just give us some of these gems to take away. We also talk about just the desires of fatherhood, what you thought it would be, and then what it really is, whether a father was present or who you want to be as a father. And then we also talked about shaping the child, and from your own perspective to allowing the child to grow and to be and to communicate with the child. And this is what I have to say that I absolutely loved. Some of the encouragement and the tips that the guys have left today is about partnership and also about self-care, self-assurance. We talked about patience and understanding when it comes to fatherhood or when it comes to parenthood. We talked about accountability, and we talked about encouraging communication with your children. And I heard something about don't be a narcissist, don't be a know-it-all. Encourage the communication.
Absolutely, learning from your kids. Yep.
Right. I love the portion about having a positive male mentor in your life when it goes to fatherhood. And we're thankful to even hear Mark kind of champion Raymond for even helping him out through the years that he's been here at ABH. And we heard about enjoying yourself. And lastly, but you know, it's not the last thing that we'll ever say here on the podcast, but we do want to acknowledge all of the women and the wives and the partners that assist with fatherhood and parenthood. Guys, we thank you so much. Before we end, Wendy, what are your thoughts? And then tell us what we have coming up for our next cast.
Sure, Danielle. This was absolutely a riveting conversation, a great way to celebrate fatherhood, and happy Father's Day to all of my guests today.
Yes, happy
guests.
Father's Day.
Thank you, Wendy.
I appreciate you and all your advice you dispensed today to our audience and to each other. And that's what our conversations are about here on our podcast at ABH. So, coming up in the month of July, self-care. Stay tuned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. So we thank you again for listening. This is Advanced Behavioral Health Podcast. We are always striving to make a difference in mental health. We will see you next time.